6 Reasons for Edge Computing. Hello and welcome to Edge University. I'm Jeffrey Ricker. And in this lesson, we're going to discuss 6 reasons for edge computing, or why we don't just run everything in the cloud. Not long ago, we would consider anyone who would resist moving their applications to the cloud as a mere fuddy-duddy. They were just afraid of change. Get with the times, man. But in 2020, it became clear that there are legitimate reasons for not moving every application to the cloud. There are several reasons for edge computing. The most notable are bandwidth, cost, autonomy, security, compliance, and latency. We'll review each of these reasons. The first reason is bandwidth. Now you may be saying, come on, I can stream movies to my phone. How is bandwidth an issue? And what about 5G? Isn't that going to increase our bandwidth by 100 times or something? That may be true, but 5G will be most applicable in urban areas. Places like oil fields in West Texas and North Dakota, or mining operations in Brazil and the Congo, they're not going to have commercial 5G infrastructure anytime soon. Or consider cargo ships in the Pacific Ocean. 5 years ago, there was maybe 100 sensors on board a typical cargo ship. Today, there are 10,000. You're not going to be able to push that raw data over satellite connection to the cloud for processing. And what's happening with cargo ships is happening everywhere. The data generated by the Internet of Things is overwhelming. Gartner said that only 10% of enterprise data was generated at the edge in 2019. That is expected to grow to 50% by 2022. Which brings us to the second reason for edge computing: cost. Moving data costs money. Even if you have access to the big pipes for data, it'll still come at a cost to move and store. All that raw IoT data, what's its long-term value? We're talking about the vibration data from an engine or dynamo sampled at 1,000 hertz, or continuous video of an empty parking lot. What's the value of sending that raw data to the cloud and storing it there? I can calculate the cost, it's not cheap, but what's the value? We do not want the vibration of the machine. We want to know if the vibration is normal or abnormal. We don't want to look at a parking lot. We want to know how many cars are there. The ratio of raw data to business relevant data starts at about 400 to 1. That means at least 400 bytes of raw data must be processed to create just 1 byte of business relevant data. If you process only in the cloud, you're moving 400 times the data to the cloud than you actually want or need. The third reason for edge computing is autonomy. By autonomy, we mean self-reliance. Cloud infrastructure can and does fail. Amazon and other cloud providers have had regional and global outages lasting hours. Network lines get cut or knocked out by storms. If you're a retailer, you need to check out customers whether the internet is up or not. And if you're a manufacturer, you need to run the line whether the internet is up or not. So some environments have intermittent connections by nature. Cargo ships and cruise lines only have access to broadband networks while at port. Satellite connections can be blocked for days. Meanwhile, the raw data is still being generated and has to be processed. Without edge computing, there will be gaps in your processing. With edge computing, you have the autonomy to process that raw data, queue up the business relevant data, and then send the business relevant data to the cloud once connectivity is restored. The fourth reason for edge computing is security. Some places, such as nuclear power plants, are too strategic to connect to the internet. Some data is just too sensitive to be moved across the internet. A word of caution though, my experience is that IT professionals tend to exaggerate the security risks of their data. The fifth reason is compliance. Some raw data cannot move to the cloud by law. Many regions have regulations for healthcare data and other personal data. In those scenarios, it is possible to process the raw data on site in order to send anonymous data to the cloud. The sixth reason is latency. In 2022, there are a few practical use cases for edge computing dictated by latency, but those will explode over the next few years, and one such use case is augmented reality. The human eye translates 60 frames per second as continuous motion. Anything slower creates a distracting flickering effect. That's 17 milliseconds. But data can only travel at the speed of light. There is 1 millisecond latency for every 100 kilometers of fiber cable. It's physics. And the distance from Salt Lake City to Seattle is 1,700 kilometers. That means if someone running an AR application in Utah that is hosted in the cloud in Seattle, they will have intolerably jittery use of this AR. Not acceptable. So there you have it, folks. 6 very real reasons why we cannot process everything in the cloud. Bandwidth, cost, autonomy, security, compliance, and latency. 6 very real reasons for edge computing. So thank you, and please look for more lessons from Edge University.